The book of Acts chapter 2, verse 5. Pay attention now, brothers and sisters, because our mission is to shut down the Christian. From now on, we're shutting down the theology of Christians. They don't know what they're talking about. Acts 2 and 5. And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven. So, the reason why these men were in Jerusalem is because it's the feast of the Pentecost. Only Israel was commanded to come to these feasts wherever they were in the world, and that's what they were doing. This is Deuteronomy 16:16, but we're not going to go into that. What we want you to see is, and there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven. So they came to this feast. What does it mean, and there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men? Let's look. The book of Acts 22 and 12. And one Ananias, a devout man according to the law. So those that kept the law were the devout men. You got to know what these words mean, brothers and sisters, when you read the Bible. And one Ananias, a devout man according to the law, having a good report of all the Jews which dwelt there. So this man was devout according to the law. That's how you're devout, according to the law. So let's go back. This lets you know that these men were keeping the law by going up to Jerusalem to worship the 3 times they were commanded. These Christians. Wow. Acts 2 and 5. And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men, law-keeping men, out of every nation under heaven. But what I'm interested in, brothers and sisters, is verse 9, because it's going to show you where these Jews were from. So let's read. Parthians and Medes and Elamites and dwellers of Mesopotamia, and in Judea and Cappadocia and Pontus and Asia. So these are where these men were from. Most of them was homeborn at this feast. That's what it's letting you know from Judea. But look, Phrygia and Pamphylia, in Egypt and in the parts of Libya about Cyrene, and strangers of Rome, Jews and proselytes. Who were these strangers of Rome? Jews. Most of these Jews, or I should say a fraction of these Jews, were strangers coming out of Rome. These Jews were strangers coming out of Rome to this feast. So Jews dwelt in Rome. Now the thing is, brothers, this is the important thing. The book of Acts 18 and 1. What we're showing you is that the Jews were in Rome. Acts 18 and 1. After these things, Paul departed from Athens and came to Corinth, and found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy with his wife Priscilla, because that Claudius had commanded all Jews to depart from Rome. We're seeing testimony that the Jews were in Rome, and Claudius had sent out an edict slowly having them depart out of Rome. But we're not interested in why. What we want you to know is there were Jews in Rome. But I want you to look at this now. It's interesting. Acts 22 and 3. Paul says, I am verily a man which am a Jew, born in Tarsus, a city in Cilicia, yet brought up in this city at the feet of Gamaliel, and taught according to the perfect manner of the law of the fathers, and was zealous toward God as ye all are this day. Now I want you to notice. See, there's nothing the Christians can do about this. Paul was a Jew born in Tarsus, a city in Cilicia, a Roman province. This is what we want you to see. He's a Jew born in Rome, a Jew born in Rome. But let's go on down. We don't have time for the games, the Christian games. But watch this. And as they bound him, the hem is Paul, with thongs, Paul said unto the centurion that stood by, is it lawful for you to scourge a man that is a Roman and uncondemned? Hold on. Paul just said he was a Roman. Why did Paul call himself a Roman in Acts 22:25? Let's just read on. I want you to see this. Let's read on. When the centurion heard that, he went and told the chief captain, saying, take heed what thou doest, for this man is Paul, is a Roman. Then the chief captain came and said unto him, tell me, art thou a Roman? And he said, yea. He said, yeah. So look at this. Look at this. Then the chief captain came and said unto him, tell me, art thou a Roman? He said, yeah. Paul said he was a Roman. I'm confused. I am verily a man which am a Jew born in Tarsus, a city in Cilicia. Paul's a Jew born in a Roman province. See, Paul's a Jew. But when we drop back down to verse 27, then the chief captain came and said unto him, tell me, art thou a Roman? He said, yeah. Paul admits he's a Roman, but he's a Jew by ethnicity. But he's calling himself a Roman. Why? Because he was born there free. He was a free-born Jew in Rome, making him a Roman citizen. That is how come Paul gets to tell these people he was Roman. Because he was born in Rome. So the Jews that were born in Rome were called Romans because they were citizens there. That's why when you go to the book of Romans chapter 2, see, these Christians want you to think that they're writing to all Romans. No, they're writing to the Jews in Rome. That's why it says, behold, thou art called a Jew and restest in the law and makest thy boast of God. So see, what this lets you know that these Romans were the Jews born there. And if that's the case, brothers and sisters, when we go to Romans chapter 5, verse 8, but God commendeth his love toward us. The us would be who? Watch. And that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. I'm going to read that again. But God commendeth his love toward us, and that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Who is the us Christ died for? The book of John, chapter 11. Who did Christ die for? Us, the us. John chapter 11, verse 49. And one of them named Caiaphas, being high priest that same year, said unto them, ye know nothing at all, nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perisheth not. Oh, the whole nation. Look, let's read on down. And this spake he not of himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that the Messiah should die for that nation. Hold it. Christ did not die for mankind. He died for a nation, one. Explain this, Christians. We're going to shut you down. Y'all use John 3:16. Why not use this? Christians accuse us of cherry picking. They do the same. That's why we don't pay no attention to them. John 3:16. But look, and this spake he not of himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that the Messiah should die for that nation, not mankind. Nation, one nation. That nation is Israel. But watch. And not for that nation only, but that also he should gather together in one the children of God that were scattered abroad. And James 1:1 records that is Israel. But not only was he to die for that one nation, but he was also supposed to gather them in the future. So Christ only died for that one nation. So when we go back to Romans chapter 5, verse 8, but God commendeth his love toward us in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. That was Israel. But look at this. Much more than being now justified by his blood, we shall be saved from wrath through him. Who's going to be saved from wrath through him? Who he died for. And that was Israel. Right?